Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say, being Benito. So all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful April the 17th, 2020. Rondo Deportes, Big C is still out digging for gold. I know it's all fair in love and war. Save some gold for everybody else in the universe. Big C is all fair in love and war. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports is powered by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he will do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV. If not, you'll be staring at a still picture Big C sometime. You got to upgrade to the smarter TVs, and it always helps when you have something smart to watch on TV, Big C. Also, want to make sure, as everybody's taking the pause, the COVID-19 pause, we got to eradicate COVID-19. I know when I was growing up, sometimes, especially at Grandma's house, she would always say, close the door, baby, close the door, leave the screen open, but close the door, baby. And then every time she saw a fly, she would get the fly swatter, and she likes to swat the flies, Big C. And sometimes if we didn't pay enough respect, we get the fly swatter. Also, Big C, it's all fair love and war. Grandparents doing their things back in the day. But for people going through whatever they're going through, we got to get rid of this, the coronavirus. I don't like the fact that we don't have enough science technology. Hey, we need smart science the same way we need smart TVs, Big C, man. How about that for a new twist of fate? Maybe we'll get some smart science and get rid of that coronavirus. We need a vaccine for that. I want to make sure on this beautiful Happy Friday, we give out our Veterans Crisis Hotline. I even heard there was a program today. It had Bob Costas, and he was on the program talking today, and they were talking about also the Veterans Crisis Hotline. Really love to see more people getting involved with that. Their experience at helping veterans and their loved ones deal with issues. The Veterans Crisis Hotline, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. You got to pick up the phone, and you got to make the call. And it's not necessarily for people going through the challenges of depression. Even President Trump and Mike Pence talked about many people going through trying times. And sometimes you just need someone to hold your hand and someone to say, hey, it's all going to be okay. But you got to pick up the phone and make that call. If you can't do it for yourself, maybe somebody can do it for you. Also, very happy to announce, been talking about a real estate listing show for some time now for the spring of 2020. Well, it's here. Valley Homes, weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. Really can't wait to see baseball, if we get baseball this year. But just tell them Big C sent you. And the goal is simple, to recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. In fact, the car you're driving now, you probably saw that dealership with the commercial on TV. Sports teams, my goodness, there's so many sports that's played on TV, and you don't really notice it until they're gone. It's almost like everything that we expect is going to always be there. When it's gone, you really miss it. Really miss seeing some of our sports programs on television. But you can do real estate the same way. Let real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. It's a great way to get your properties out there, let people know that you're in business. We know that there are times when, even right now, we can't get out and do open houses, but you can still put things on television and people can see what you're doing. Also, some thoughts in the world of sports tonight. We have WNBA. The draft is actually underway as we speak, and there's a tribute to Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gigi. That was really beautiful, and I know that I haven't had the chance to really see it, but I heard that's what's going to be happening. But that to me is still a nice way to honor, my goodness, what has 2020 really meant in the world of sports. Just a lot of things that we're dealing with. USA Track and Field lays off 7. The CEO takes a 20% pay cut. So there are people all over the world that are adjusting to everything that we have to we all got to do our part. I'm really grateful to be able to do the Big C Sports Show. And I always talk about invoking prayer and God's providence, as we always want to say. We want to pray for people and our thoughts and prayers with people. And I believe in doing that. Von Miller spoke today, NFL. Really, I would just like to say, I know he's an all-pro player, but most likely going to be a Hall of Famer too at the end of his playing days. I know that I'm hoping, like a lot of people are hoping, that we'll get NFL football back this year. We don't know what's going to happen. There's just a lot of things going on in the world of sports. The Bears released veteran tight end, Trey Burton. The Patriots re-signed restricted free agent defensive lineman Adam Butler. So some things are going on in the world of the NFL. Even the Cleveland Browns are trying to get some throwback uniforms. And everybody has their own choice about what's great with this country that we live in, and things that are, not so great at times. But I know there's something that I've learned a long time ago, and especially with a family that was raised around the church, also raised around sports, and believing greatly in science. There are times when I was told by my grandparents and even by my parents that sometimes you just got to pray for things. And I know that for me, Big C's thoughts and asking, I've been talking about asking 1 million pastors to pray for God's providence in finding a way to find a cure for this coronavirus pandemic. And so I want to just say, it's one thing to ask other people to do things, but I want to take this upon myself. I'm asking some of the 10 wealthiest pastors in the universe to pray for God's providence and find a solution to this coronavirus pandemic. And I know oftentimes people will pray before a game, or they'll pray and they'll hope that they pray that they can win the game. Big C, a lot of guys that gamble on sports, they're praying that the team covers the point spread. They pray for that too. But pastors, because my grandfather was a pastor and my mother grew up in the church too, I want to make sure that if I can invoke, this is my part. I know a lot of people watching replays and that's their choice, but I believe that sometimes you're called to do certain things. So I'm going to do things my way because I believe I have the opportunity to do that. It's not for everybody. I know we have believers and we have agnostics, we have atheists, and people have what they want to have. But as I've always said, if you can have programs on television that are atheists or non-religious, not that I'm preaching to anybody, but it's okay to pray. It's okay to have prayer. I know many times it saved my life. I believe that with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. There's a pastor, Enoch Adoniram Adeboye. He's worth $39 million, and he's the 10th richest pastor in the universe. I want to ask him also to pray on Big C Sports, and also if we can just invoke God's providence to find a cure with our scientists so that we can get over this problem with the coronavirus. A lot of athletes will get together and hold hands at the end of a game, and they'll pray that everybody's healthy. They'll pray for each other's families. And when you think about this, his annual salary is $2 million per year. He's the owner of Dove TV, which is a gospel TV station that airs a variety of church programs, including weekly sermons. So I appreciate asking him to also pray for Big C Sports. And as you pray for other athletes, we're all praying for our first responders. We pray for our family. A lot of us even bless our food. We put so much thought in prayer, and there are times when we don't do the same thing my grandmother did when she had no other choice. She got on her knees and prayed. I want to ask Pastor Joel Osteen. He's worth $40 million, according to some studies out there. And why do I say that's important? It's important because some churches are going under. and others are prospering. So I want to ask the ones that are prospering, maybe they have been blessed. Joel Osteen, he's the senior pastor of a Protestant organization called Lakewood Church out of Houston, Texas. He's also a New York Times best-selling author. He now leads the biggest Protestant church in the United States. He's also founded the television program which airs his sermons and has served as a producer of the television sermon for his father, who was a pastor up until he passed. And then Joel Osteen took over. He's been the senior pastor ever since. He has a program, a talk show called Joel Osteen Live. And the main focus of that ministry is preaching the gospel and living a life of obedience to God and avoiding, other sins and traps that people talk about. No one's judging. But I'm asking Joel Osteen also pray for Big C Sports and also pray for God's providence that we can find a solution to help science to get rid of this virus. It's happened before. Prayer changes things. I know it has. I know some of you want to just watch reruns of TV shows and guys that played sports 10, 15, 20 years ago. Nothing wrong with that. Not at all. But think about this. Pastor's been blessed, lives in a $10+ million home. 52,000 people who attend his Houston-based church weekly, estimated at 7 million people who view the broadcast weekly in 100 countries throughout the world. Big C Sports asking for Pastor Logan. Not only pray for Big C Sports, but also pray for science to find a solution and a cure for this coronavirus pandemic. Also, Benny Hinn, net worth $42 million. They may or may not be right, who knows? But Benny Hinn, a televangelist who was raised Orthodox in his native country of Israel, became a Pentecostal Christian as a teenager. He started his ministry in the Orlando Christian Center and started a ministry of faith healing and preaching the gospel. Now, for people who think about, well, why would we ask for pastors to pray? We all pray for different things that are important to us. It's important to me. This is paying homage to my grandparents, also my parents. His sermons of healing seminars are broadcast on the Trinity Broadcast Network throughout the world, and he's best known for his crusade for his This Is Your Day television program. And I do believe that, just like my grandparents taught me, prayer can change things, and that's why I ask for your prayers for Big C Sports. Also prayer for science. As we can pray for sports teams, we can pray for the kickoff, we can pray for so many things. There was a TV show back in the day, and I believe it was called, it was produced by Spike Lee. For whatever reason, it slips my mind right now, but there was a sermon being given before a football game, and he was saying, we're going to beat them, we're going to whip them back into yesterday, and we're going to do all these things, and people stood up and they cheered Big C. I thought it was funny, but they prayed before they went into battle. And so I'm also doing the same thing. Let's pray and get rid of this coronavirus. If we can believe in God, what do they say? It takes a faith of the size of the grain of a mustard seed. Well, we have that much faith. Chris Okoyelome, $50 million, the pastor, 7th richest pastor in the world. He founded the Believers Love World Incorporated Christian Ministry. The mega church is located in Lagos, and he's a faith healer who preaches that faith can heal all illnesses. Let's do that. I would love to believe and hope that by we speak it into existence, his ministry operates several branches, including the NGO Inner City Missions for Children, 3 Christian television channels. 3. There's something about the number 3. He has 3 Christian channels: the Love World book series, the Healing School, and the Rhapsody of Realities. His net worth is currently estimated at $50 million. I believe we can ask for pastors throughout the universe to do their part and hope that we can invoke God's blessings to give science, knowledge, and wisdom. I think Dr. Salk created the polio vaccine, and now we don't have people dealing with that anymore. There's a time when prayer meets science that we can really do a lot of things. I'm asking for the faith community to do it. I was watching a thing the other night on some people that are in the entertainment industry, and it was glorifying, the worst things about society. But it made people wealthy, so they did what they had to do, New Jack City style, and we all understand that, Goodfellas style, and people give those guys awards. If you can get an award for having programs where you blippity blip and bloppity blop and you're doing different things to hurt people on TV, we can ask for a moment of prayer. It's not going to hurt you. Just open your ears like my grandparents told me. Hubert Engel, worth $60 million. He's a pastor and Zimbabwe clergyman who founded Spirit Embassy. The church was later named Good News Church. He's also the founder of Angel Organization, as well as its CEO. Pastor Angel is referred to by Forbes magazine as a pastor who offers services to the variety and the very wealthy who do not have luxury time. Isn't that something? They don't have time to pray, but they have time to make the money. Nothing wrong with that. He's an international minister and founder of the Millionaire Academy, which assists people in business ventures and provides mentorships for them. He lives on a 14-acre estate in a mansion and is the owner of multiple luxury cars and houses. It's all fair love and war. I'm not judging anybody. My grandfather on my father's side, he was a pastor, owned service stations, owned real estate, built churches, did a lot of things because he was intelligent, but he also believed in prayer. And so I want to just pay homage to them also as I start today's Big C Sports Show, asking for pastors to pray on Big C Sports also. We're the only sports show in the universe that will take the time to say more than God bless you and our thoughts and prayers are with you. Asking Pat Robertson to pray on Big C Sports, net worth $100 million. Pat Robertson's well known as America's, let's say, maybe pastor from Virginia, one of the favorite pastors, I would say. He's established the Christian Broadcasting Network in 1960. Been doing this thing for 5 decades, Big C. In 1960, he founded the Christian Broadcast Network, which broadcasts the 700 Club program, for which Roberts is the host, along with other programs. Now think about this. My grandparents, especially my grandmother, on my dad's side, used to always watch the 700 Club Network when I was a little boy growing up. Isn't that something? Well, I know sometimes they plant seeds. They plant seeds, and they want us to have those seeds come to harvest. So I'm asking pastors, I know we love sports. Almost every sports person that I know of, they pray. Before a game, during a game, after a game. But sometimes they're made to feel ashamed of prayer. So they'll do it in private. Big C Sports is the only sports show in the universe that would do it publicly. God can hear that prayer. So Pat Robertson asks you to pray on Big C Sports and also ask God's providence to help find a cure for this coronavirus. We need a vaccine for it. And I believe in science. I believe in prayer. What if we can mix them together? Isn't that something? When they mix together, it's like the universe is saying we can do this. But anyway, everybody has their own opinions. Mr. Robertson also founded a law firm in Washington, D.C. called the American Center for Law and Justice, and his father, as well as Robertson, a United States Senator. So everybody has this thinking about how do we pray for things. Every time one of our presidents is sworn in under oath, they always have him raise his right hand and pray on the Bible. We can do the same thing with science, asking Emmanuel Maluki, I hope I said his name right, worth $100 million to pray on Big C Sports, and also ask God's providence for a cure to coronavirus. He founded the United Family International Megachurch, as well as the Apostolic Faith Mission. He's known for providing controversial miracle cures, as well as delivering prophecies. He's the owner of a private jet, luxury homes, and Christ TV. So they're also on TV, just like the Big C Sports. You can find us on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. I'm asking for those pastors not only to pray for Big C Sports, but also let's ask God's providence. There's another pastor, his name is Ayo Ojisifor, worth $120 million, the third richest pastor in the world. He's commonly referred to as Papa, and he's founded the world. Think about this. He founded the Word of Life Bible Church located in Nigeria. He's the senior pastor of the church, which has broadcast via international satellite through its Christian television station throughout Africa. In a total of 75 countries in the world, he was formerly the national president of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, as well as president of the Christian Association of Nigeria. Isn't that something? If we can get some of the pastors that love and believe in the word, that they can pray, and we can find a miracle healing. I know it's not for the cynical person. In fact, they'll say, I can't believe you're talking about God on the sports program. Well, maybe they can learn something too, or they can change the channel. Also asking a pastor that I've watched many, many years, Pastor Thomas Dexter Jakes, known as TD Jakes, net worth $150 million, the second richest pastor in the world, Bishop TD Jakes, also known as Thomas Dexter Jakes. I'm asking Pastor to pray for Big C Sports podcast. You can pray for Big C Sports the same way you do so many things. I remember Pastor TD Jakes, Bishop TD Jakes, one time saying that don't do things that you're not called to do. And if you're called to do it, then do it. But don't try to fill in somebody's place. You got to do what you're called to do. And I remember that because that gives you bold confidence. Don't wait for people to approve of you. If that's the case, then you'll never be approved of. You got to approve yourself. His net worth is an amazing $150 million. He leads the non-denominational Dallas, Texas-based megachurch called the Potter's House. T.D. Jakes, Bishop Jakes, is a filmmaker. He's a producer in addition to being a member of the clergy. Some of his films include Miracles from Heaven. Aren't we asking for God to produce a miracle and a cure for the coronavirus vaccine? He's also produced Winnie Mandela and Heaven is for Real. He's become wealthy through the support of his congregation as well as sales of the many books that he's authorized from his gospel music. I believe in what my grandparents taught me. They taught me about prayer. They also said go to college, get the best education. But there's times when you can just invoke God's providence too. Sports teams do it, and we can all do it. I know the late Reggie White played for the Eagles and also the Green Bay Packers. He always brought athletes together to pray, and I believe we can all do our part. It's just a matter of how we do it, and if we believe enough. I think we all have the faith the size of the grain of a mustard seed, and hopefully with science and our faith leaders, we can find a way to come together and get some miracle. We all believe in miracles. Do you believe in miracles? What did Al Michaels say when we beat the Russians in the Olympics in hockey? He said, do you believe in miracles? Yes, we do believe in miracles. If he spoke that into existence, we can too. Number one in the universe, from what I understand, Pastor Kenneth Copeland, net worth $760 million. Kenneth Copeland, I'm asking you to pray for Big C Sports, and also with God's providence, we can find a cure or a vaccine for this coronavirus pandemic. We can do it. I know you've seen believers before get cured of different things. Kenneth Copeland, the founder of Kenneth Copeland Ministries in Lubbock, Texas. The grounds are a massive 1,500 square acres of the ministry. He's a popular televangelist who hosts the Believer's Voice of Victory televised ministry. The program is also broadcast through radio, television, and podcast throughout the world. And he lives with his wife Gloria in their mansion, estimated at $6 million. Why does that matter? Because some churches are folding tent. They don't have money coming through. But he's been blessed enough to figure that out. Maybe God's given him his providence. I also ask you to pray for Big C Sports. And think about this too. His dream was to become a recording artist. So he sold many albums throughout the course of his ministry, and one song that made it to the 12th position in the top 40. So think about this. He's also authored multiple books and publications. Men of faith have done that. I wanted to open up Big C Sports, paying homage to my grandparents, and asking, as I've been asking for a long time now, Big C, to get 1 million pastors to pray for God's providence, that we find a cure to this coronavirus pandemic. I'm also adding, pray for Big C Sports. I love having people pray when they really believe. There's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of times people have an issue with prayer, but I don't. I grew up that way, and I love paying homage to my grandparents. It's amazing. I've had a few things happen to me in vision that I wanted to make sure that I took the time to pay respect to that, and that's why my grandparents know what I mean. Sometimes you get a vision for things, and it comes up, and you got to talk about it. And so I wanted to say Big C Sports is probably the only sports show in the history of the universe that invokes God's providence, asking for prayer, health, wealth, and wisdom for myself and family and people all over this great country. In fact, people all over the world. I really love saying that, and I really hope and pray that we will find a solution for that. Everybody has their own thoughts. Colin Kaepernick, I remember how the NFL turned its back on Colin Kaepernick, and they did to Colin Kaepernick what the universe is doing to the NFL and saying you can't play. Isn't that something? I mean, if it wasn't so true, it could be a joke, but I'm thinking about this. Here's a man that was told you can't play sports anymore because he stood up for Black Lives Matter. He stood up for a lot of people who are being affected by so many things in life, and he decided to donate $100,000 of his own money to help fight coronavirus in disproportionately devastated minority groups. And here's the same man that the NFL treated him the way coronavirus is treating them. Isn't that amazing? I mean, it's just, some things are just amazing. Former San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick, he announced yesterday that he'd be donating $100,000 to a coronavirus relief fund for minority groups. He took to Twitter to pledge his donation to the Know Your Rights camp for COVID-19 relief fund. And I love the fact that that man has been pushed aside, ostracized by so many people who also pray before games. They all have someone that comes and prays over the food or to bless the team. They all have that. And oftentimes they pray in private. It doesn't mean that if you stand out on the street corner and pray that you're more of a believer than those who don't. Not at all. But there are some people who will have a show, a TV show, a movie, where you shoot 20 people and you become a hero. You know, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, he used to be the governor of California. He made a lot of money from movies where he was the Terminator. And when he came to town, a lot of people had to have some bad things happen to him. But that's part of Hollywood, too. It doesn't mean it was real. Even Sylvester Stallone, you know, Rocky and Rambo, a lot of those movies are based on destruction. Everybody had to have, when they met him, a lot of things were not going to happen good in their favor. John Wayne, the Duke, when he came to town with his pistol, a lot of people got injured. But we made those guys, you know, Hall of Famers and give them Oscars and Academy Awards. It's okay to pray. I think of what Colin Kaepernick did. His donation is aimed at addressing the disparity that has attributed to years of structural racism. And I know a lot of these NFL owners that said, we don't want your kind plan. We just want guys that are big, dumb, and fast that don't question anything. and that's what a lot of times, if you're that, you're okay. If you're not that, then they'll get rid of you. And the NFL owners know it's true. So there are about 670,000 people reported to have, I guess, coronavirus cases throughout that's a lot. Throughout the United States, over 33,000 people have passed away as of Friday morning, according to the Washington Post. And a lot of African Americans are disproportionately affected by that. So I wanted to really make sure that I started the show with prayer and going deeper, not just saying God bless America and God bless Big C Sports and God bless my family, as we all do that. A lot of our presidents, when they give a speech, they'll say God bless America. Well, we can do that the same way they can, and I really believe that God has blessed our great country and has also blessed Big C Sports. But there's so many people that are trying to do things to help everybody. According to the newspaper, the majority black countries, or counties actually, have 3 times the rate of infection and about 6 times the rate of fatalities compared to white countries. I mean, that's something. We gotta make sure that we do our part. I want to make sure I do my part. I can't do everything, and sometimes you're on that island all by yourself. But when you think about the communities, black and brown communities are being disproportionately devastated by COVID-19 because of years of structural racism. And Kaepernick said that in a video posted by his campaign. Anyway, Know Your Rights. It's a COVID-19 fund to help address the issues there. And there's a lot of people that talk about it. National Institute of Health Infectious Disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci. He's been addressing the issue at the White House also. We all got to do our part. I will just tell you this. As Big C Sports, I will always do my part to do what I feel is right. I'm not trying to run with the rest of the herd. Everybody can do their part. I don't know everything. But what I do know, I want to share. Because at the end of the day, I'm hoping that anyone that follows Big C Sports, at the end of the day, they can say, you know what, I learned something. I learned something that might keep my family safe. I learned something that might keep me safe. And I believe that's part of what I was called to do. Like T.D. Jakes said, you got to know what your calling is. You got to do what you're called to do. I remember talking to a Hispanic lady, a friend of mine, and she said, your religion is sports. You can use sports to do your part. And I thought, didn't really think much about it other than thank you. But maybe she prophesied what I'm doing right now. And I know more and more as people get into watching replays, at some time you want something that's really going to help you. So I really believe in prayer. I wanted to spend the first half of our show talking about prayer and getting pastors, in fact, the most successful pastors all over the universe to really pray for Big C Sports, and then also pray for God's providence to help find a cure for coronavirus. I believe by being a sports show that will reach out to people that may not watch news, they'll find more and more ways that we can make an impact. I really hope that we can be a part of that solution. I want to make sure so much that I talk about it all the time. We're going to do what's called the Big C Timeout, also known as the Big C Pause. When I come back, we're going to talk more about sports and the coronavirus and how we can get God's prayer to solve a lot of our problems. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C Timeout, also known as the Big C Pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on an app that I love called Speaker.com, and also Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that Big C, from 3,000 miles away, he does his thing. Looking forward to getting him back in the saddle also. I've been talking about launching a real estate TV show. Glad to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. And you got to tell them Big C sent you. The goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers to put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. Sporting events do it when we get sports back. Let TV work for your real estate needs too. As far as refinancing, that's possible. And of course, putting your property listings on TV. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. You can get some help. Really appreciate that. Love talking about having some pastors pray for Big C Sports also for a cure for the coronavirus pandemic. I believe we can do that. We got to speak it into existence with the help of science. Really appreciate Surgeon General Jerome Adams doing more PSAs to let people know what we can all do to make sure that we get our hands around this issue and let science do its part to make us all healthy, wealthy, and wise. Really looking forward to that. I do know that there's a lot of things going on with POTUS, talking about maybe opening up the country, starting with 4 states. And there's also going to be giving some money to farmers, $90 billion that's going to be given to farmers to help them, because they've been hit hard by this pandemic that's affected their workers. That's important. And I know that in California, the Central Valley produces, I want to say about 70% of the world's, or at least the country's, produce. Maybe wrong about that, but I believe that help will go a long way in helping some of the farmers. We talked about the WNBA draft. It's taking place tonight, and it's already live. There's a nice tribute to Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gigi for a lot of those NBA or WNBA players, and that's going on right now. I haven't had the chance to see it, but I did do the DVR on it, and I love just being able to watch things that are going on in the world of sports. There's some things that are happening also this weekend, because it's important going into the weekend. I believe, at least it's important to me. It's called One World Together and Me. It's going to happen on Saturday, hosted by Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, and Jimmy Fallon. A celebration in support of the frontline healthcare workers who are fighting to find a cure for COVID-19 and also helping people as they come in contact with others who've been infected. There's another program that's coming on. I want to say it's Wednesday, the 22nd of April. It's called Saving Our Lives, and both of those programs are on BET, Black Entertainment Television. Just like the pastors that I talked about, asking for the blessings of Big C Sports, also for helping our scientists in our healthcare system find a solution and a cure to this coronavirus pandemic. So the program, one is on Saturday with Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, and Jimmy Kimmel. The other's April the 22nd, Wednesday, Kelly Rowland. I believe there's going to be Regina Hall, Fantasia, DJ Khaled, Kirk Franklin. Really love the way they all perform. And many others is on a BET special. And just like Colin Kaepernick had said, and Dr. Fauci had said, and Surgeon General Jerome Adams, we want to do whatever we can to bring attention to this, because the BET rallies to support communities of color most impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic with a new television special, a relief fund, digital news programs, and community partnerships. I think that's so important that we can have people that speak up with their platform more than just saying, I have a concert, come support my concert. I really respect people that are doing their part. There have also been some relief drives that have happened in New York City. You know, they've been hit really hard around the area of New York City and New York State. But I want to just pay homage, Big C Sports, to BET, because this Black Entertainment Television, for 40 years, BET has been rooted in a legacy of helping affected communities of color, raising $12 million for Hurricane Katrina. When you Think about that. That was BET that raised the $12 million for Hurricane Katrina. And millions more for the Haiti earthquake victims. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, BET will use its global platform, just like Big C Sports is doing, to provide critical educational and financial resources directly related to the African American community. I believe it helps our community. It helps all people. But no one, if you can't help your people who look like you the most, when other people may not do it, they just may not do it. If we don't, then who? You got to be a pretty sad dog not to wag your own tail. But I believe in helping everybody, but we really got to do what Dr. Fauci said and Surgeon General Jerome Adams. What's going on in the African American community? We got to understand that social distancing is a must while we wait on a vaccine to cure or at least treat that pandemic. We got to make sure we know that stuff. The COVID-19 pandemic has really compounding the profound health and financial vulnerabilities of many African Americans. Every day there are new reports of how the pandemic is more harmful to African Americans at a much higher rate than other communities. I don't know why, other than many people say lack of access to health care, and oftentimes being on the front lines, maybe having more stress, not taking our blood pressure medications, oftentimes not eating healthy, not getting the proper exercise, along with other societal ills that have been systemic in our country. But if we can just come together and pause and realize, I know you want to watch certain specials. There's a special with Michael Jordan over the weekend. There's nothing wrong with that. But think about it. Is it going to teach you how to keep your family safe when we have a pandemic that's hurting many of us? And we've been told by mainstream, it's okay. Hey, just come back and watch basketball games from someone who hasn't scored a basketball in 20 years. There's nothing wrong with that too. But equal time is good. But I believe this Big C Sports Show today, invoking the providence of pastors, asking for God's help with science and our politicians, is going to be more nutritional than just watching some old memories of how someone worked behind the scenes, as African Americans are the hardest hit group by COVID-19. So BET, I really appreciate what they've done, using all the resources and their capital and the media platforms and the relationships with the creative community and sponsors and businesses, charitable organizations, to support communities in the time of crisis. That's important. I love the fact that we have a platform that can be like that too. And think about this. Everybody has their thoughts, but Saving Ourselves, a BET COVID-19 relief effort broadcast special, is going to air Wednesday, April 22nd. I believe it's 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's a special co-hosted by Grammy Award-winning singer, actress Kelly Rowland, TV personality Terrence J, and actress Regina Hall. Will feature virtual appearances from musical performances from some of the biggest names in music and entertainment, as they share tips on how to manage and cope and help dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. The celebrity guest appearances and performances will include DJ Khaled. I really love all we do is win no matter what. We can win against this too. We just got to put our hearts, minds, and prayer behind it. Charlie Wilson, Chance the Rapper, Kirk Franklin, Fantasia, Melvin Crispell III, and many more. They're going to give up-to-date information and drive viewers to needed resources during the unprecedented time. In partnership with the United Way, proceeds are being donated to African American communities that are severely impacted by COVID-19. Even as POTUS wants to open up the country again, but it doesn't affect people that look like him. People can read between the lines. Everybody has to read between the lines. The goals of this special is to come together and to collect a spirit of strength, community, and hope as we unite in harmony and compassion through the collective healing power of music, comedy, and entertainment. We can bring restoration and inspire the world that our brighter days are ahead. I just think it's so important. I love, with the help of Big C Sports and BET and a lot of other great people that have been a part of reaching out to communities and not just reading your scores about who's bigger, stronger, and faster. And I juxtapose that to a lot of our sports brethren. Outside of maybe 2 or 3 minutes, you don't hear about COVID-19. You might hear 2 or 3 minutes of it, and then they're on with something else. Financial donations come from joint funds will allow the United Way to disperse resources to local organizations under the United Ways in New York City, Atlanta, New Orleans, Detroit, and Chicago, regions that have been the most impacted by the crisis, as the mothership is going to show you the Chicago Bulls, when the city of Chicago is hit hardest, among the hardest hit cities in the country. But Big C Sports will do our part. Everybody has their own way of doing things, and we will definitely do our part. So I really appreciate bringing that aspect to the sports universe. We've talked about having pastors help. I really believe in that. Asking for God's providence, for blessing Big C Sports. Also, helping science find a way to do that. It's not just Big C Sports. Major League Baseball's Ryan Zimmerman of the world champion Washington Nationals, he and his wife are raising money to fight coronavirus. Now, people say, well, why are you talking about sports and politics? Those guys, I have no time for you. But for smart people, think about this. The Nationals' Ryan Zimmerman, it's important. He's just like Colin Kaepernick, just like what Big C Sports is doing. Fundraising for virus help. He is a two-time All-Star infielder who's played 15 years in the majors, all with the defending world champion Washington Nationals. He holds most of his team's career hitting records, and he has 2 homers and 7 RBIs postseason, helped the Nationals win their first World Series championship with baseball on the Big C pause right now. Zimmerman's offering his thoughts, and he told the Associated Press that he has been waiting for the 2020 season to begin, and that he and his wife Heather are doing whatever they can to support the medical professionals during this coronavirus pandemic. That's like what I'm doing with Big C Sports. I want to make sure I do my part, especially going into this weekend of prayer. I know a lot of churches can't get together, but they can still hold prayer and ask for help in fighting this pandemic. And so that's part of what athletes are doing. Everybody can do their part, and I love being a part of the groups that are trying to do their part. Think about this. USA Track and Field, they're going to lay off 7 people, and then the CEO is going to take a 20% pay cut just because money's not coming in. Indianapolis, Indiana, USA Track and Field has laid off 7 people from its 65-person staff. CEO Max Siegel is taking a 20% pay cut to offset lost revenue due to the coronavirus pandemic. And the organization that runs the country's largest summer sport has been forced to cancel dozens of events, including the Olympic trials, which were scheduled for June. And it's amazing. 2016, they produced around $5 million in revenue. So they're having to cut back now. And everybody knows that everybody's having to adjust something. And we just hope and pray that we can all find a solution to keep people afloat, keep people going strong. And I know we can all do our part. It's not just Big C Sports. There's a lot of people that are trying to do whatever they can to bring attention to it. We don't want to put our heads in the sand, not trying to browbeat anybody about anything. But there's talk right now that some states could begin reopening as early as May. And they're saying that they're going to start a slow implementation. And it's important that Dr. Fauci also says there's a key model that lays out timelines for states reopening and stipulates that there must be more testing and contact tracing. I believe they were saying if you have the antibody, you may not be as affected by it. It could come back, but they're saying chances are if you've already been affected by it and you have the antibody, then it may not come back and affect people. So we know that's part of it too, that everybody has to hopefully that herd mentality will step in and help out. But we do know that a vaccine is probably better than just having the herd mentality where people develop an immunity to it. Everybody has that hope at least. And I just love bringing you that news. There's as we talked about earlier, NFL and sports teams, we talked about Colin Kaepernick giving his money, $100,000. Zimmerman and his wife helping raise money, asking for church pastors and our entertainers that are raising money to help the front line, the first responders. Some good news, light at the end of the tunnel. It's not, people can overcome this. NFL star linebacker Von Miller tested positive for COVID-19, but he's in good spirits. And he also mentioned something that I've been talking about with Big C. He has the coronavirus. The NFL star wanted to come forward with his diagnosis to show people how serious it is. He's going to do whatever he has to do to get through this. And I think that's important. Everybody will. But he's healthy. He's wealthy. He has access to the best health care. Everybody doesn't have the access to the health care, the medicine that he does. But we all have to just learn from those who've already gone through it. The Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 50 is his highest profile American athlete, at least in the NFL, to announce that he has COVID-19. We know last month NBA star, two-time champion Kevin Durant with the Golden State Warriors, now the Brooklyn Nets, he tested positive for COVID-19. I believe a lot of these guys are coming out of it being okay once they do the isolation for 2 weeks, and whatever their doctors and medical treatment is telling them to do, that's going to help a lot of people get healthier. I believe they're saying right now 85% of the people, they beat this disease, maybe even higher than that. And it's good to hear some good stories too. Not just the stories that make us afraid and not really knowing what to do. But when you hear about some of the athletes that have come through this, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm sure, just like Big C Sports Today started out with prayer, I'm sure they've all reached out to prayer. They've reached out to their pastors, their clergy, asking for God's divine guidance and providence. They may not do it publicly, and it's okay if you do it publicly. It's okay if you do it privately. But I know a lot of those men think that way. Miller was a recently unanimous pick in the NFL's all-decade team of the 2010s, said in a conference call last week that he trained in San Francisco before returning home to Colorado, and then he has the stay-at-home measures went into effect to contain the virus. He's not sure how he came infected with it, but it's an airborne pathogen. We can get it by breathing or by getting the droplets that science talks about. And again, on Wednesday, Los Angeles Rams center Brian Allen had also tested positive for COVID-19 3 weeks ago. I believe a lot of these guys are getting better. New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton revealed last month that he tested positive for the virus. Los Angeles Chargers last week revealed a positive test and symptoms for an unidentified member of the organization. And there's been in Denver 3 unidentified Colorado Avalanche players also tested positive for COVID-19. But a lot of these guys are coming out of it. They're doing okay. So there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I know the commissioners, they want to get the sports leagues open again. I know they were talking about it. I talked about it yesterday. Had President Trump convened with sports commissioners in the hopes of filling stadiums. Even if it's without fans, they would at least like to get some players out there. Again, I think it's worth repeating. He convened with more than a dozen advisory groups covering different sectors of the economy. Among them was a sports-focused council that featured commissioners of the NBA, WNBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, and Major League Soccer, the UFC, and the PGA, as well as WPGA. Some of the owners of the NFL teams included New England Patriots owner Bob Kraft, Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. They're both donors to Trump, and there's nothing wrong with that. Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban and Vince McMahon of the WWE. And I think it's important that we all come together as much as we can. I'm sure those men, they also are men of faith. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But it's okay to have both. I believe we can all have both. I really appreciate in California Governor Gavin Newsom giving his updates to stay on top of what's going on. They still say that the prospect of mass gatherings is negligible at best until we get the herd immunity and we get to a vaccine. California Governor Gavin Newsom told reporters this week. Also, Anthony Fauci, the top infectious disease expert at the National Institute of Health, expressed uncertainty in an interview published this week about the prospects for baseball and football this year. But I know they're trying to just ease things along the way, and we got to stay informed with that. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on apps that I love called Google or Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic from 3,000 miles away, and he'll do his thing, and I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. And I'm also just happy to just mention, been talking about aligning with a real estate listing show, and that's already underway. Very proud to be a part of that. Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. And when you call and tell them Big C sent you, the goal is to recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships do it, sports teams do it, and you can let real estate and TV work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. I know there's so much going on today in the sports universe. Everybody's trying to stay healthy, trying to stay happy, trying to stay informed, and we can all do that too. As I would always say, Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men rumble. And I say, Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe? And I know what we got to all look forward to is God's providence. I believe in asking for God's providence and helping science find a cure for this coronavirus. I believe in asking for the top pastors all over the universe. Pray for Big C Sports and asking for God's providence and finding a way to find a cure for this. We can pray and find a way. We got to find a cure for it. We got to all do our part, and I want to make sure that I do my part. It's so important. I love doing that. You can follow Big C Sports Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide on the #1 sports show in the universe. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage of their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.